Through this video, we're going to work together to address your PTSD, your stress, your anxiety, and the things that are really haunting you in your sleep. And we're going to address them spiritually, mentally, and physically in this video. I want to just start by prefacing by saying that through these methods that I'm about to tell you, you need to have gentleness and patience with yourself. I know it sounds corny, but it's so important because if I didn't have the gentleness and patience for what I went through, I wouldn't be here to tell you about it. I don't know what I would have did, but I wouldn't have been here. Especially if you're a guy watching this video, to be patient, to allow yourself to express, to allow yourself to move through anger, confusion, and all those problems right now, you need to be patient. You need to be gentle. You need to accept what is going on first. And we're going to take this one step at a time. This isn't going to be a video to just cure you. This is going to be your toolkit to get through what you're going through. And through time and through effort and through just allowing, you're going to get past this feeling. I promise you. So starting off with my journey, right? To tell you about me. So normally I wasn't really a stressed out or anxious person prior to college, right? When I got to college in my freshman year, that's when it seems like a lot of stuff was going downhill for me. There were a lot of stressors that started to stack on top of each other that manifested into PTSD that I had. And it wasn't really no one around me that was going immediately to therapy or doing a lot of the stuff that I do. So I didn't even have the resources around me to really deal with it, other than just talking to my mom about it, my dad about it, you know, friends and stuff like that. I didn't have the resources I needed to fully cope with what I was going through, right? So right before I went to college, I experienced what I call a sexual violation. This wasn't by somebody older than me. This was someone that was my age. It was a friend of a friend. And I won't go too much detail about it, but it was a sexual violation that confused me, and it caused a lot of psychological damage that I wasn't even aware of. So when I stepped into my freshman year, I was carrying the baggage of August, happened in August, right before my freshman year, which was a deep sexual violation I was carrying with me. But I tried to ignore it. I tried to move past it. I was like, it's not that serious, but it was serious. And I carried that stress with me. So I put that on my back. So then when I got to college, freshman year, I was confused about what I wanted to do. Like, being in college your freshman year, you're supposed to figure out what you want to do, but none of the majors, none of the things that were there at this college I wanted to do. I felt lost and I didn't understand, like, I was choosing between all these different majors and I was just thinking about what I should do. And I felt like everybody around me had it figured out. So even as I was going to class and starting to go, I felt like a pit in my stomach, like this isn't right. I started out with animation when I got to college. And I really did like drawing all of my life, but this just, I knew in my spirit wasn't for me anymore. In the way that the classes were set up, it was stressing me out. I had classes where I was building entire video games. I had classes where I was drawing 200 different drawings to create an animation for a class. It was just like a lot of work I immediately came into. And I wasn't used to that. And it was also very stressing, or it was very stressful for me because I started to question my work ethic and in the way that I work, because I was used to being like a 4.0 student in high school. I was used to, I know I'm a very intelligent person. I know I'm very capable. But when I got to college, it made me feel incapable. It made me feel like I wasn't built to be here. And then I also made the mistake of going to a PWI. So there was just a lot of different things going on there. So you may be wondering, like, okay, so who are your friends, or what was your dynamic with friends? I'm going to tell you. So coming into my freshman year, I came into freshman year with my closest friends. So one of them that I've known pretty much since first grade. One I've met through high school. And this friend was actually someone that I dated, but I stayed friends with, right? And I had a good number of people that I knew that were here. So I was like, okay, at least I have this support system. So over time, all these problems started to develop between me and my closest friends. And there was just a lot of miscommunication happening. And I think a lot of the issue was that when people transition and go to a new place, a new environment, people want different things, and your friend that you think is your friend will start to want to be with somebody else and be around different people and do different things, and that may not involve you. Their idea of what they want in their life doesn't involve you anymore, and that started to happen. And then I have friends in relationships that were dealing with their own issues. Some friends I had that didn't even go to the school that I was also talking to. So I started to develop a sense of loneliness. So on top of the sexual violation I'm carrying, on top of the stress of classes and not knowing what I want to do, questioning who I am, I also didn't have a strong support system socially. So that was another stress that was added onto my back. And then just moving down the line, my family was going through issues. My parents, disagreeing, arguing. That was a whole another thing that was going on. So I was dealing with all of these different things that was contributing to me developing anxiety. I remember the first day that I experienced anxiety. I went to my room. I was upset about something my friend said. I went to my room and I sat down and I started to feel a pressure in my chest right here. Every time I experience anxiety, it's right here in my chest. And it felt like I couldn't breathe. It felt like I felt like I was panicking. And I never experienced this before. I used to be able to get on any roller coaster or go to any type of horror, scary movie, or a haunted house or whatever, right? I used to be able to do that with no fear. But I was experiencing fear right now. And I couldn't figure out why was I experiencing this fear. And I started to journal about it, and I started to write down the sensation. And the sensation would not go away. It was like a pressure in my chest, and it wasn't like a physical pressure. It was something like my heart. It was something on my heart, and it was weighing down on me, and I felt pressure, like somebody was pushing into my chest, right? And I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. And the thing about when you're in a stressed out moment, and when you're feeling anxious or stressed out, it's the best thing your brain knows how to do first is just ignore it. So I started to put that feeling, that anxiety, in the back of my mind. I tried to ignore it. I tried to make it normal in my life. So I continued to go to class. I continued to talk to people that didn't like me. I continued to do all this stuff. I started creating this fake reality, and I started just allowing the anxiety to be there. And the anxiety started to get worse. Because even in my freshman year, I had a roommate, and we lived in a double in the same room. And whenever he would put his key in the door and be opening the door to come inside, I would panic, and I would jump, and I would look. And I just remember this started to become repetitive. Every time he would put his key in the door, every time he would come inside and be like, "Hey, Kiwan," I was panicked. I felt like somebody was coming for me. I felt like something was I felt a panic. I felt like I needed to do something. And I wasn't aware of this terminology of fight or flight, and I didn't understand anxiety. I didn't understand it till I felt it. And going through that, I just realized what other people go through, the anxiety that they feel on a daily for all the traumas they've been through. And it's even the little things, like him opening the door, was starting to trigger me. I was like, what the fuck? I need to do something about this. So one of the first things that I did was I started to journal. Journaling is so effective because when we journal, we are able to make sense of the chaos. I was going through all these different things, and writing it down allowed my brain to process one thing at a time. And I started to, and it's easier to formulate a plan of what to do next when you can organize the information. See, when you're going through so much stress, it's when you go through one stress and then you go through another stress, they start to stack on top of each other emotionally. But when you're going through different things, you start to get overloaded. And when you get overloaded, it's too much information. It's too much stuff for your brain to carry at once. So when you write it down, you're allowing yourself to express it emotionally. You're allowing your brain to reason with it. You're allowing your brain to make it real, to make it logical. You're forcing yourself not to disassociate from it anymore. See, I was trying to ignore and disassociate, but when I started to journal at that time, I started to reason okay, wait. So the sexual violation happened. I wasn't even thinking about that no more. I was like, that happened. Maybe that's part of it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm really confused on my classes still. My social life, my friends, like they're being weird to me. They're not talking to me. They're doing stuff with different people. Like I started to write this down. I started to figure stuff out. Like this is what's like bothering me. Like I'm bothered by something. That's why I'm anxious. Like something is like putting me in this mode. So write down what's happening. Also for me, and a common symptom of PTSD is to have nightmares. If you're experiencing nightmares, you more than likely have PTSD. And I was experiencing terrible nightmares every night. And I couldn't get any good sleep ever. I could never get good sleep. I used to buy the melatonin gummies. I had to start drinking NyQuil to just go to sleep. Like I had terrible sleep. And that was another thing. But I started to write all that stuff down. And what I need people to realize more of, and this is going to lead me to my next point, is that we have to address our shadows. And journaling was the first method of doing that. But what people have to also realize is that we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. And your conscious mind is your everyday thoughts, your active thoughts that you get to choose. The thoughts that you can hear, the thoughts that you can say in your mind, which you're aware of. That's your awareness. So your subconscious is what you're not aware of. That is where the shadows lie. That is where the problems are. So even though I started to become conscious of the issues, I wasn't connecting what was the deeper emotional problem going on that was in my subconscious. See, the situations happened and they didn't. I know that now, but that doesn't mean I automatically got over them. That's the conscious mind part, right? But the subconscious mind work is, okay, what feelings are manifesting from these situations? What am I not seeing about myself? What am I feeling internally that I have not become consciously aware of yet? What happened to me? And how did I emotionally take a hit from that? Spiritually, how did I take a hit from that? And that's all located in your subconscious. How do you get it out of your subconscious? How do you be aware of it? Well, the number one cheat code is therapy. When you talk to a therapist, and I really want to call them, for the sake of this video, a shadow work professional. A shadow work professional. They're the ones that's assessing your shadows, assessing what's going on subconsciously. They're asking you the right questions and prompting you in a way and pushing you to bring the subconscious to the conscious mind. They're able to see your patterns and your triggers and identify them to you. And then once you identify the patterns and triggers, you get to the root of what feeling are you going through? Like what emotion, what thought is dominant in your subconscious that's causing the PTSD. Okay? So, but that's not the first thing I did, because therapy wasn't the option for me at first. I was kind of scared to go because I didn't want her to tell me that I was crazy. I was so worried about feeling like I was crazy. So the first thing that I did, after the journaling and that manifested from that, is called shadow work. Shadow work is basically what therapists do for you. It's basically a system where you ask yourself the questions, and these deep questions, you answer them and you're able to retrieve your own answers. So you kind of become your own therapist. So for example, if you look up on Google shadow work prompts, which I implore you to do, if you look those up, you'll see stuff like, what happened in my childhood that is reminding me of the current stress that I'm going through right now? What happened with each of my parents in my childhood, and how is that affecting me now? What stressful event has happened to me in the past 3 months, and what problems am I dragging into my present because of that? It starts to ask you these deeper questions, and once your brain has to find an answer. So once your brain has to find an answer, your conscious mind, it's gonna pull an answer from your subconscious forward. If you keep asking the questions and keep going deeper, like your brain has to retrieve that from somewhere. So your subconscious mind comes forward to provide an answer. And sometimes your brain can't provide an answer. Sometimes you have created a false story in your mind and your brain can't find the answer. And that's also helping. That's also very helpful as well, because you start to realize, oh, what I'm thinking about myself, it's not even true. It's not backed up by any information that my mind has. I feel like I'm ugly, but I don't have any real evidence that I'm ugly. Or I feel like I'm unconfident, but do I have any real evidence in my subconscious of that? So then your brain starts to dissolve that belief that you have that's causing the anxiety. Okay? That was a mouthful. Moving on to my next thing, you have to accept the triggers that you're gonna have. So even though you are doing your shadow work, it's not gonna cure you immediately. Therapy is not gonna cure you immediately. Because for me, I was still having triggers. Seeing the friends that I fell out with was a trigger. Seeing my grades for the classes I was failing was a trigger. Seeing my parents' relationship fall apart was a trigger. These things were triggering. And the way that you deal with triggers and the way that my therapist was helping me with it when I finally did get one was just accepting that they're there. Don't ignore your triggers. Accept that they're there, and then don't create a false narrative. So what will happen when you see a trigger, your brain starts to release like a list of thoughts that's gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. It's gonna have a set list of thoughts that you're about to experience. And once you start hearing your brain give you all these negative thoughts, you're starting to see it. Once the trigger is there, you have to start to rework. You have to accept, okay, the trigger is there, and you need to tell yourself, reprogram yourself in the moment to be like, I'm safe. Even though I'm feeling anxious right now, I am safe. I am valuable. I am grounded. I am purposeful. I am divinely protected and guided. Say those things in the moment when you're triggered. Or, this person does not have any power over my life. I am the only person who has power over my life. This situation has no power over my life. Saying that in the moment rewires your brain to not even have that as a trigger anymore. But this takes practice and time. You're stripping the power away from that trigger, and you're rewiring your brain to think something different. So in those moments when you're triggered, that's the key moments where you gotta do the work to change what's going on. And the reason why I said accept it first, because you can't ignore it. So you have to address the demon that's in front of you, and then you strip it of its power. Does that make sense? Next, let's talk about somatic therapy. Let's talk about your body. You have to address your body. This is the problem with a lot of times when people try to overcome stress and PTSD. They don't talk about the body. So me, after I did a lot of research, listening to a lot of therapists and psychologists on YouTube and online and doing research, I started to realize that I'm feeling this anxiety in my body. But I'm always focusing on my mind as far as it, and that's important. But if it's a physical issue, why am I not dealing with it physically? So then I started to realize that there has to be a physical way of healing this, and I figured that out. The thing that I started to do, and this is the strongest thing I can tell you in this video, tremendously changed my PTSD and anxiety that I was going through, was doing yoga, exercise, and something I'm going to tell you about, which is called emotional freedom technique. When you do somatic therapy and take care of your body, think of yourself like a glow stick, right? And when you crack a glow stick, that's where the light comes out. So when you are moving your body around, you are literally shifting the energy that you're holding on to. Part of the anxiety and stress is the energy you are carrying within your body. When you do yoga, when you stress, when you go to the gym, when you exercise, you are moving around energy. And that's how the stress is able to be released, because you're moving it out of you, just like that glow stick I just told you about. And shout out to Hinduism and all the Hindus out there because of yoga. Yoga is so important to me because it is a connection with your body and your spirituality. It's a connection between you and the divine, and you're able to literally heal yourself with the poses that you do. And people don't realize the power of yoga. They just see it as stretching, but no, it's very spiritual, and it will literally heal and align the parts of your body. So the stress will not manifest because you're in a flow. And when you have all the energy flowing in your body like a creek, like a river, the stress is not able to live there anymore. When it comes to exercise, you have the rapid movements going on, right? You're running, you're moving around. With the rapid movements, it's like you're pushing out anger. So if you're experiencing anger from your stress or PTSD, rapid movements in the heat manifesting and burning off of your body, like the heat that's coming off of you, it's pushing that stress and energy off of you. It's pushing it outward. You're expressing it. You know what I mean? Back to that glow stick I was talking about. And it's like when you want to fight somebody. You notice when you want to fight somebody, your body gets hot. It gets like heated up. And suddenly you want to move, you want to act, you want to get up out your seat. That is the energy that is being built up. So when you have stress in your body, it's already living there. Plus the anger, you can use that through exercise to push it out, to get it out of you. And that's why that's so important. The last technique that I really want you guys to focus on is emotional freedom technique. This is something that I learned from Ajna Sarah of the Healing Place Dynasty through a workshop that she had. And it's something that I talked about in my book, Young Wisdom, which is a book about creating the phenomenal relationships that you desire. Through this book, I specifically give you a diagram and I talk about the points in your body that you can tap on. And it's a tapping technique. And when you tap on these certain parts of your body and say stuff like, even though I feel anxious right now, I know I'm okay. This will literally take your body out of fight or flight, like almost instantly. If you do it for like 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, the tapping, it will calm you. This is something that you can do anywhere and it's for free. So there are 9 different parts, meridians that they call them. And when you tap on them and say that affirmation I just said, you are able to literally take yourself out of the fight or flight mode. Can I fully explain to you why this works? I can't. But what I can tell you is that it does work, and I used it. When I would see people around campus that were triggering me or going through stressful moments with exams and stuff like that, I would start doing this tapping. I would be in class doing it, and I'll start tapping. And you can do it very low key anyways. Like if you figure out your method of doing it, you can do this really low key and just do this around anybody. Like they're not gonna know what's going on. And if they do, who cares? You're trying to take yourself out of flight for their, for their well-being as well. And these are the different points that I'm tapping on right now. But if you look it up, you'll see all the different points. And it goes just like this. It's a bunch of different tapping. You'll do it much slower than that and with the affirmation. So every time that you tap a point, you're going to say the affirmation again. And you can keep saying it as long as you want. You can keep doing this practice for as long as you want. And this tapping will take you out that fight or flight mode. All in all, I hope this video was really, really helpful, and I hope it was concise for you. These were real things that I did in my life to overcome the PTSD I was going through. If you can do all of these things, I am very confident that you can move to a better space with it. If your stress and anxiety is on a level 10, I am very confident that with all these practices I just told you, it will move you to at least a level 4 off of the 10 of stress. I promise you, if you can make this a practice and do it for yourself, be gentle and patient with yourself, you will move through that PTSD. You will move through that stress and anxiety. I promise you. And yeah, as always, I'm so happy for you listening, for you watching, and doing something for yourself, listening to me talk. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.